we forget that if you're not taking the time to celebrate, you likely aren't reflecting and actually seeing the growth that's happening, and that can kind of lead to burnout.
Welcome back to Duo On Air. I'm Abby.
And I'm Courtney.
And we're the ex-agency turned entrepreneurial team that puts the Duo in Duo Collective. Our boutique organic marketing agency specializes in SEO, social media strategy, and branding.
We're an everyday pair of business besties / marketing experts obsessed with helping our community learn more about what it takes to run a business.
Which is why on Duo On Air, we're not holding anything back. We're giving you all the info we know about how to grow your business organically so you can be the confident CEO you were made to be.
And how to navigate life as a small business owner.
Whether it's on your own or with your best friend by your side, so grab your coffee
or your mimosa, we don't judge,
and settle in for a quick value-packed episode of Marketing Tips.
Welcome back to the Duo On Air podcast. This is episode number 151, and we wanted to jump right into celebrations because we don't do this enough, and likely you don't either. And I think we've kind of realized that celebrating, sometimes we think that, okay, if you take a break from or if you take time to celebrate, you are not making progress anymore. And so it just doesn't feel productive to celebrate.
Or it feels selfish.
Or selfish, yeah. Braggy, selfish.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's, yeah. Even if you are just celebrating just internally with your own team or your own special people, sometimes it can still be hard to celebrate. But I think we forget that if you're not taking the time to celebrate, you likely aren't reflecting and actually seeing the growth that's happening. And that can kind of lead to burnout because you never take the time to reflect, celebrate, and you just keep go. Mm-hmm. And eventually you hit the point where maybe you lose the excitement or you just don't know why you're doing what you're doing anymore, because you don't take that time to celebrate consistently. Mm-hmm. And the reason why we know that is because we've been there.
And sometimes I think too, we've hit goals or milestones in our own business, and we either A, don't notice it because we don't seek it. We don't stop to like actually be like, hey, did we, make the income that we made at the agency? That was one of our goals a while back, like to get to that level of income. And sometimes we reach those goals without even realizing it because we're not like celebrating those. We're not stopping to take that time. So if we didn't stop to take that time to actually look at the numbers and figure that out, we would have never even know that we got there. So I think sometimes it's also like you're getting to points in your business that you don't realize how much you've actually grown. And that's, again, where that burnout can happen, right? Because you got to that point, right? And then you just keep going because you think you need to get to that next big thing. And that's not necessarily true. Like, you reached a really massive goal, celebrate it. And then, like, how do you feel in this space now? Like, do you want to keep going and finding that next big thing? Or do you feel good where you are? Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge part of it, is that you feel like you have to constantly find that next big thing. And you're chasing that instead of actually slowing down and reflecting and seeing how far you've actually come.
Yeah, and it's remembering too that these mini like micro celebrations are for you and no one else. Like, this is a chance for you to be selfish, and you can really focus on how you feel and not, was I chasing that goal because this is what everyone else is doing? Mm-hmm. Am I chasing this goal because so-and-so that I look up to just met that goal, so I need to do it too? Like, why do you actually have that goal? And then when you celebrate, what do you feel when you hit it? Because taking that time to reflect can also give you the idea of like, wow, that goal really wasn't a goal that was what I needed to hit.
Right. Or like it wasn't healthy for me, or it was, I don't want to say unrealistic, but just like sometimes we set goals because we think that's what we need in our business to feel good or to like feel like we've made it, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. But if you're not excited about it after you've reached it, then that probably wasn't the actual right goal. That
it wasn't worth it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So overall, reflection and celebration are going to be the key to making sure you don't burn out in this new year. And also just really making sure that like positioning these activities as not just feel good activities, but the fact that they're actually essential for making sure that you're growing in the right direction. It's sustainable. You have the right goals in place. Like, it is going to put you on the right track. And I think if you, like, knowing me as an Enneagram 3 person who tends to think anything, any type of self-care or break is not productive, right? If you position it in that sense of like celebrating is actually going to help you stay on track and help you be productive and be the most like efficient you can be, because you're reflecting on whether those goals actually matter rather than just running so hard towards something that might not matter. So I think it's a kind of a little bit of a mindset shift. So we wanted to talk today about how we are going to celebrate more in 2025, and we want you to steal these ideas if they feel right for you. The first one is actually an idea that we stole. But
where did
I love
we get
it.
this idea?
Taryn.
Yeah.
So we were at a retreat in Arizona and with Taryn, and it was the she is going somewhere conference or retreat, right? Retreat. She has a conference this coming year, so definitely check that out. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes. But she had this idea, and she actually does it with her husband. So we were like, we are going to steal this idea for our business. And it is taking a bunch of wine bottles or beverage bottles, if you want it to be like cans of coffee. I don't know, like whatever it is.
Whatever you like to sip on.
Yeah, whatever you like to sip on. And writing your goals. So buying like stickers and labels and writing goals on each bottle. And then when you hit that goal, you have to get together. For us, like for you, it can be you celebrate with whoever feels special to you if you don't have a business partner. Or if you have a team, it can get you all together to celebrate. And for us, it's going to get us together. Like we need to celebrate this goal when we hit it. So
I'm curious how many bottles we're going to have.
Yeah. Right. We were saying that we're going to focus on getting bottles this year from all local companies, which will be super exciting. And I think we need to start thinking through what all those ideas are going to be.
I think it'll help us to celebrate sporadically and randomly throughout the year. I think that's something too that a lot of people, they're like, oh, okay, I'll celebrate at the end of the year, because that's like when these celebrations technically, quote unquote, happen, because everybody's celebrating Christmas and New Year's and all these things. But I think it's good to remember to celebrate throughout the year too when you hit these milestones. Don't just let all of these goals and milestones add up and then just have one big celebration at the end of the year. You should actually be stopping throughout the year to celebrate big goals, little goals, whatever it is. So I think that's where this wine bottle goals thing is going to help us to do that throughout the year. So it's not just, we're like, oh yeah, cool, we got that goal, we'll just celebrate it later at the end of the year. So we're really excited for that. And also, as you were talking about it, I was like, oh shit, I probably need to design some cute wine bottle.
I mean, that would be really cute. I was thinking that I need my husband to make me a shelf. We can like put them on a shelf.
Okay, and then we can paint the shelves our brand colors. Oh my gosh, you guys.
This is where we go too far.
Yeah, you guys are probably like, and I'm not doing
notorious. But we are really excited for this one. And I also think the idea, like, I think if you do this activity, I want to hold us accountable to write big freaking goals in there, not goals that we know we're for sure going to achieve, because who cares if that wine bottle sits there for 2 years? Like, yeah.
Abby's like, no, we're not going to drink
aged wine
for 2
is
years.
good.
And Court's like, we're going to drink every other week.
Right? We hit all of our goals and that wouldn't be healthy for us.
No. Yeah.
So I guess that's a whole nother reason. You want to make sure you space them out. So make them challenging.
Yes. Don't make them
scary.
Too easy peasy. But make them scary. They have to be scary, because if they're not scary, then what's the point, kind of?
Yeah.
I mean,
get a bottle of
scary ones too.
Yeah. Get a really expensive bottle, write your scariest goal on it, sit there, and one day you'll celebrate it.
Yeah.
Because we have had some really big goals like this recently that we didn't even like take the time to sit down and celebrate.
No.
And
it's not until somebody like tells us, they're like, wow, that's a really big deal. Did you celebrate that? And we're like, no,
I don't even think we had the goal written down. So it's also like making sure you have the goal written down first too.
Exactly.
So that's kind of number one.
Number two, so pre-planning and scheduling meetings to reflect. So we've talked a little bit about like reflection, setting that time aside, and we are big learners of this. If you actually don't put meetings on the calendars, these things don't happen. And we've talked about this on the podcast in the past this year, that we really need to set these meetings in order to have that reflection time, because otherwise it just kind of comes and goes and you actually don't reflect. You don't see, where you were to where you are now. And having those meetings on your calendar is going to keep you accountable to do that. So we're talking like financial meetings, marketing meetings, our annual planning. So we did our big annual planning meeting this year, and we talk about that on episode number 141. And that really helped us to find that clarity within our business in order to move forward and have these meetings and have these celebrations. So we've been working on setting up these marketing meetings, these financial meetings throughout the year for every quarter. So we have it planned. It's on the calendar. We don't have to think about it until, the week prior or whatever when we're prepping for it. But making sure that we have these meetings set aside and on the calendar helps us to prepare, to reflect. It's not a last minute thing. We're actually planning it out. And then within those meetings, we can look back and see where we were, where we want to be, where we've gotten. And then from there, determine, what is that next step? And we should be celebrating in this meeting because look at our numbers there and look at them now, or look at our growth from XYZ to now. So it's really making sure that you're setting yourself accountable and setting these meetings aside.
Yeah. We talked a lot about it too in episode 131 about how the anti-meeting culture kind of hurt us in 2024. And I think we really avoided meetings coming from the corporate world, and we thought they were a waste of time. And so we just avoided them. We avoided these internal meetings specifically. Like, obviously, we didn't avoid client meetings, things like that. But we definitely avoided internal meetings where we got together to review financials, to review our marketing plans, to do annual planning. Like, sitting down to do that, whether it's monthly or quarterly, we just kind of avoided it because we thought it was, again, not productive. It was corporate-y. It was not something we needed. And because of that, there was a lot of misalignment in our business this year, and just a lot of conversations we didn't have that we should have had. So I think having these meetings scheduled is going to force us to celebrate. And one of the things that we're really focusing on too for these meetings is creating agendas so that within those meetings, we actually have that point to reflect, like whether it's at the beginning or the end. I mean, I'd kind of vote beginning, but like having that moment to reflect and look back on like what's gone right can be really helpful. And we even do that with our bookkeeper too, with Madison.
Yep.
Every time we have our quarterly meeting with her, she always starts the meeting with how have things been going? What are your wins? Things like that, which is really helpful for us too, because you might be talking about your books, but there's a lot of other things happening behind the scenes that reflect that personal life to things that are happening in work to emotionally how you're feeling, like so many different things.
Sometimes it can kick off the meeting very positively, and sometimes it's like a little bit of a vent session, or you're talking to a therapist, or you just need to cry for a second, and it's fine. It's a really good way to kick off a meeting other than just like diving right into whatever you're talking about. So we think just that time to reflect is super important because, again, it's one of those things that you just kind of push aside. And you're like, nope, well, we just need to like think about moving forward. We don't need to think about the past. We don't need to talk about it, whatever. But ultimately that could hurt you. And I think just having these conversations and being very candid and, again, having these meetings is so important because otherwise you start to lose track of the bigger picture. Yeah.
This third idea is one that I think we all try to do, like, internally or in our brain, or we have this like ongoing list, but then we forget, or maybe you have a folder or something on your desktop or in your inbox. It just doesn't seem to work as well. I think visual is such a key when you're reflecting and celebrating. Like, you visually need to see something, and it needs to be out there in the open more often than not. So we talked about doing a win wall. So this is something where you take Post-it notes or stickies, and any time, or maybe you have a big whiteboard or something like that. Anytime you accomplish something, or you have like this feel-good moment in your business, like it doesn't even need to be... It can be like a small win that's just like feel good, not based on revenue or something like that.
It could be a testimonial that you got from a client that just made you feel really, really great.
Yep. So recording that and putting it on your win wall and just having something that's like very visual that you can look at. So maybe this is something where we need to like duplicate our win wall for both of our offices.
Well, we're going to have a wine wall and a win wall. A wine win wall.
A wine win wall. Wine win wall. So we'll keep you posted on our progress. Obviously, if you follow us on Instagram, we'll be sure to share it.
Yeah, and I think too, this is one of those things that's super easy to do in the moment. And again, could be little wins, big wins, and then as you start to build that over time, and you look at your win wall, it's going to make you feel so good, and it's going to show you that you are actually moving the needle. You're moving forward. You're achieving things. Because when we get into that day to day, we don't go back and look at those things, right? We're like, oh yeah, we got that great testimonial a couple weeks ago, and then you just forget about it. Or, like, oh, I achieved this, and I like really loved how this project turned out, or whatever it might be. You just kind of like forget about it and sweep it under the rug. Where if you have this win wall that you can go to constantly, it's just kind of like a feel good thing. Like if you're having a rough day, go look at your win wall. Go stand in front of your win wall for a few minutes.
Exactly. I mean, I think every single month there's like rough days for both of us.
Yeah, so exactly.
Pull you out of that slump.
And okay, so our last one for this section is gratitude morning messages. So I think I don't even remember when I brought this up to Abby and Boxer one time, but I'm like, we need to start each other's morning off really good, like on the right foot, because sometimes we wake up and we just like, we have kids and we have busy lives and we have pets that we have to take care of and we got to take care of ourselves, and sometimes we just like wake up kind of frantic, or just like we have to just dive into the day. But we started doing, I don't know, 6 months ago, something like that.
I feel like right around annual planning, maybe right before, so early fall.
Yeah, like a gratitude morning message to each other. And we're not like the best, we don't do it every day, but we try to like amp each other up, or like give positive notes to each other with this morning message, and just like something bright in your day. It doesn't have to be work related. It can be, sometimes I take Mila to daycare and I'm like, the sun is shining and it's really beautiful out. I'm so glad it's going to be a great day. Like, it doesn't have to be anything related to work.
It forces you to say something good out loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I think sometimes you can think it in your head, but it's actually harder to say positive things than it is to say negative things. Like,
just so sad.
Which is sad. And I think we have so much self-talk happening internally that sometimes it's just really good to voice it out loud. So try this with a business partner or a friend, even if it's like text messages or a Voxer note or an Instagram message or anything. Just kind of starting our day like that can just change things.
Yeah.
Give you a little moment of gratitude.
Exactly.
So we have a few ideas for you. That's kind of like how we plan to celebrate this year. Obviously, there are probably so many other ideas out there. And if you have some ideas of how you love to celebrate, please share them, because we would love to add them to the show notes and just like keep this list going for people to look at and kind of see how they can celebrate too. But we didn't want to overboard it, because at the same time, if you make a to-do list that's too long, doesn't matter if it's a good thing or like a productive thing, like you're just gonna not do it. And the key to celebrating is to actually make it happen. So these couple things are something that will force us to do that, but also like get us excited about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So now that it's the end of the year, I think one of the things that we really need to focus on is that reflection point, because what goals are you going to write? Like, what are those goals? What are those moments that you're going to celebrate? And that's what we have to figure out first. We have to figure out like, okay, how can we reflect on our business and make sure that we have the right goals set up? So regardless of whether you celebrated it all in 2024, that's okay. Like if you didn't, I mean, maybe take some time to go celebrate.
Do it now.
But also, like, let's focus on how we can celebrate in 2025 and setting those right goals. So I think the first thing you can really do is just take time to really write this out. We did this a lot at our annual planning meeting of just kind of like writing out wins and challenges and lessons from the year. And again, go check out that episode, episode 141. We have a agenda planning template in there so that you can actually steal that agenda template for yourself, and then you can use that so that you can still build it out. And it's just because it's the end of the year right now does not mean you can't do this in the new year. And in fact, we're doing this with a client of ours in the new year.
In January.
Yes. Like, I don't care when you do this. Do this in March. Do this in June. Do this in August.
Yeah,
like,
it doesn't matter. It's not like you have to wait for the new year or a specific time. It's like everybody's like, well, I'm going to go back to the gym in the new year because it's the new year. Or like when you're halfway through the week and you're like, nope, actually I'm going to start working out again on Monday. Like, don't push it off like we typically tend to do as humans. Start now.
Yeah. I would say if the holiday season is one that's like super busy for you, like it's a really busy season for you, don't try to force it on yourself. Like, you're never going to do it when you're swamped. So do it during a downtime and just set the date for it so you don't feel guilty about it. But this is where you can kind of spend that time journaling out things like, what are you most proud of this year? What didn't go as planned? What did you learn? What didn't you like? Because a lot of times what you didn't like can actually be a good idea to set better goals in the future. So you're working towards something you do like, right?
Yeah,
that's why we do this.
And make it fun. Like, if this seems like a chore to you or hard to you or not fun to you, get out of your house. Go to a coffee shop. Go to your favorite local vineyard or something. Like, get out, go somewhere, enjoy a glass of whatever you like to drink, and make it fun. Be in an environment that isn't your home, somewhere that inspires you. Because I think that's where we get stuck too, is that we're like, oh, I got a journal. Like, okay. And then you're in your house, you can't do it, you get distracted, whatever. Take some time, actually really think through this, find a space that inspires you and that you can have this creative energy flow, and really make it something fun for you. Because if it's not fun, you're not going to do it. Yeah.
And I would say, like, start with journaling, writing down wins, challenges, lessons, all of that without looking at numbers. But then afterwards, look at your numbers. Reviewing your metrics and seeing, like, what brought you in the most money this year. How did all of your marketing channels perform? Different things like that. Reviewing all of that and just making sure it feels aligned, and kind of comparing that with your journaling too.
And then the other thing with this time to reflect, we always say ask for feedback. So we have asked our clients and our audience for feedback on things throughout the year. We did this right before, we did like a small push right before our annual meeting, wanting to hear from our clients and our audience on what it was that they like, what they dislike, what they want to hear more about, if they're confused about some of our messaging. I mean, we had a big old survey with just a ton of questions, and we reviewed that during our annual meeting, and that helps give us direction too on what are the things that we need to focus on going forward. How is our audience resonating with things? That's where you uncover, like, oh, they really love it when we talk about this, or we need to talk about this more, or we need to relate with them on this level of whatever a little bit more. So really having those surveys, you can easily create a survey. And if you listen to episode number 17,
way back
when we were babies and started, you can learn how to understand your target audience with just creating a simple survey, which is something that we do often throughout the year. Again, it's just a really good way to reflect on how your audience is viewing you and how your customers are finding you and why they follow you.
Yeah, so we actually this year have been contemplating switching something up in our branding process. And the first thing that we're going to do before we make any changes is survey all of our brand clients and ask them about this, because we want their feedback on it. Because we might want to change something, but we could end up changing it and no one likes it.
Right. We have to know how it's working for them, if it's working for them. And then we can even be, candid with them too, and honest with them on like how we plan to switch this process. And then ask them too, like, does that sound like an appealing thing to you? Would you have liked that when working with us? Or what do you think that other people will think about that if they wanted to invest in branding with us? So it's okay to ask clients from past, things that they liked, disliked. Are they using the things that you provided them? If we shifted into something else, what do they think about that shift?
Yeah, so let's talk about a few more ways to avoid burnout, because I think this is something that it's just, as an entrepreneur, I think everyone's going to experience this multiple times probably throughout their business. And it's just so easy to fall into this trap because you are you're running your business, and like every minute you work is a minute more of progress, and like it's just, you wear all the hats, you do all the things, and it's exhausting. So it's kind of, I feel like finding these ways to avoid burnout is something that's always top of mind. And when you're already in it, it's like, it's so hard to dig yourself back out. So trying to think of how can we just set ourselves up for success in the new year and make sure that we're not reaching burnout or that we're getting out of it if we're in it. So number one, really setting realistic goals. So this, I know, kind of like contradicts what we just said about the big and scary. And I think there's a very clear difference between this. Setting, like writing something on a wine bottle that might be like big and scary might not necessarily be this actionable goal. Like say you really want to speak at this conference. Great. Write that down.
For example, one of our big scary goals was to work or to like do something with Jenna Kutcher. And we were on her podcast, I don't know, year and a half ago, 2 years, I don't even remember. But that was one of our big, scary, quote unquote goals. Did we set things aside in our business and on our calendar to be like, okay, what do we got to do this week to get on Jenna Kutcher's podcast? Yeah. Like we didn't do that, right? But we were just like, hopefully someday, you know, we'll be on that podcast. And we were. And that was one of those big, scary goals that we were like, holy shit, it happened. Oh my gosh. But we weren't like doing actionable things every week.
Well, I would say the actionable thing behind that. So if you want to think about like, okay, what's the difference between an actionable goal and what you would write on a wine bottle, right? So it would be like, okay, I want to appear on Amy Porterfield's Online Made It Easy podcast. Like that's a big goal of mine. That's not going to be like this, like, it could be an actionable goal, but it's like, oh, I'm going to reach out to Amy 5 times in January, like whatever. It's like, that's not likely what your goal is going to be. What your goal is going to be is I want to appear on more podcasts in 2025 and I want them to drive more business for me. And so then it's like, okay, now what am I going to do to take that action? Every single month or every single quarter, I'm going to reach out to 5 podcasts. I'm going to create easy pitch templates. Like that's the goal versus the celebration milestone. I guess is like, that's the difference. So it's like set these big, scary, like achievable moments that you can celebrate, but then also think back to, okay, what are my goals to actually achieve that moment?
Right. And like, what is it that you want out of it, right? It's not just, like Abby said, it's not just that big celebratory moment where you're like, oh my God, I'm going to be on that podcast or whatever. It's like setting realistic, smaller goals to like, what is that going to do for you? Like, how is that going to move your needle or how is that going to benefit you versus just like celebrating it and like shitting your pants because you did it, you know?
And so, and also prioritizing, because it can also be so easy to have so many goals that all of a sudden it's like not achievable because you're...
I think that's what a lot of people do wrong. It's like, everybody's like, set your goals, goal. And then you're like, okay, I need 15 goals. And you set them all and then you don't achieve any of them. Or you like half-ass achieve them or whatever. And it's because
you burn out.
Or you burn out because you have too many that you're trying to achieve. And that's just not sustainable. It's not efficient. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your business. So prioritizing and setting like 1 to 2 goals for each quarter instead of, again, trying to tackle everything at once.
So I would say if you've already set your goals, like go back and review them and what's your plan to actually accomplish them? That's the missing piece. It's like we set the goals, but then we don't think of the action steps along the way that have to happen.
We don't back into our goals.
So you have to back into it. Like because the only way you hit a goal is by repetitively doing something that is going to help you get there.
Habits.
Creating those habits. So like unless you create those habits or those repetitions throughout your business, you likely won't achieve that goal. And you have to build that into your existing plan. Otherwise, that wine bottle is just going to sit there dusty. Which it's okay. Wine gets better with age, but you know.
Okay, so find something that doesn't get better with age. Like maybe milk or something.
Milk? Gross. We all of a sudden have a fridge of different kinds of milk. Chocolate, strawberry, goat milk.
Too funny. Okay, so the next thing for this section for avoiding the burnout when you're setting goals and all of that in the new year is building in that time to rest, which is something that we're very bad about doing too. But having this as a part of your strategy is going to help you avoid that burnout. And it's something that I don't think Abby and I are very good about doing because we have hit multiple levels of burnout in duo ever since it's been born, which is okay. I think that's part of the entrepreneur's journey, right? It's not the sexy side of being your own business owner, but you need that time to rest. And if you can't do that organically, then build it into your schedule. Like actually set this time aside to sit and rest, because that's only going to help you avoid the burnout. It's going to help you stay energized and excited about your business. It's going to help you want to continue to reach these goals, to continue to set new goals, and to continue to grow and not want to burn it all down.
Mm-hmm. And if you're like me, it's like I book my vacations or my like time away from work based on other things I have to be productive at in my real life versus just like actually taking a break. So I think that's important too, of just actually, I know for me, actually knowing I am not going to work today is one of the things that I do have to tell myself like frequently. Mm-hmm. Like even if it's a Saturday, Sunday, I still have to, because there's always something I can catch up on or something I can do. And so actively telling myself in the morning, I'm not working today is like almost what I have to do to force myself to actually take a rest.
I think she was sick. Well, she's been sick since like June, but she, I don't know, it was like a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, take the day off. And she's like, well, I could probably work in the afternoon. I'm like, take the day off. Like we're marketing. We're not saving lives over here. We're not doctors. And so I was like, just take it off. And it was just last week I wasn't feeling great. And she's like, take a few hours off. Like don't shut your computer right now. Stop working. And I was like, I can't. I got too much to do.
It's so hard.
So it's just, even if you need an accountability buddy, like we have each other so we can do that. But if you are a solopreneur and you don't have somebody that can like tell you to actually take this time off, find somebody, like find that person, be like, hey, you're going to be the person that gives me permission to do this. Because sometimes we don't give ourselves that permission. Yeah. And I think making sure to like, again, build in this time is so key, because if we don't, we're just going to fly right through it. And we're going to be like, oh, I don't have time for that. I got to keep working. I'm too busy.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing we just did for the holidays this year is add a little mention to our email signature too. Super simple thing, but just setting out of offices. Like even if you think you're going to check your email, I don't care. Still setting out of office. Give yourself permission to take a step back or be slow at responding to things. And there's plenty of people who have out of offices up constantly, like for every email, just to release that stress and pressure. And then we also added in a little line that says like, we're out from this date for the holidays. And will I be out every single date of that? Probably not, but per my email, I will be.
But we also don't have client things scheduled during that time. So that is a key thing too. Like if you're jazzed to work on your business during time off, sure do that. Like, because sometimes that's fun stuff for us and stuff that we look forward to doing. But setting aside that time and like knowing that you don't have to answer emails or like do all this admin stuff just allows you to have that time to either completely unplug or just work on your own little biz and not your clients. Yeah, for sure. And then obviously make it fun. I mean, we are bringing in, for all of these meetings that we're working on, and having, like, we literally have in the meeting, like, fun coffee shop, new space. Like, we just found a place the other day that has pickleball, cold plunge, a sauna, and like a cute little coffee shop. And we're like, one of our work meetings needs to be here so that we can like take a break and do pickleball and then like go work at the coffee shop and go into the wellness spa area and like just spend the day there. I love working. How she's like, take a break and do pickleball and then be sore AF or like somebody rolls an ankle and
well, you know, like when you're you work out and it like the endorphins and then like your brain and momentum and blah blah blah. Everything's firing off. Yeah, you just fire off. It feels like we need a creative activity during that day to like work on things, which would be fun. Yeah. But it's just fun to find, like, look in your local community, find different opportunities of things you can do. And again, like, find a business partner or join a local business, like, group if you don't have one too. and kind of start there. I mean, honestly, if any of my friends ask me to do that, even if it's like they work at a corporate job, but they can work from home every once in a while, do it with them. Like that would be fun.
Exactly. And our last one here for ways to avoid burnout is leaning on your tools and support. So when outsourcing, automating things, bring in a team to help if you need to hire someone, or if you're working with contractors, or you're thinking about building a team in the new year, whatever it is to help take some of that burden off of your plate, especially if it's things that you don't need to be focusing on. So we've talked about our C-level roles before, and why we need to step into those more and actually work on our systems for, automating or working with our team and building a team, which we've done an incredible job of building a team this year. And I'm sure we're going to talk way more about that in the new year, because we're still kind of working through some kinks and stuff there. But it's really making sure to find that support that you need in order to continue to grow your business without feeling overworked and burnt out and getting sick of things.
Yeah. It's going back to those goals. How are you going to achieve those goals? What consistency do you need in your everyday or every month, like schedule and plan to make that happen? And can you do it? Like, is it even possible for you to do? Or do you need to hire someone, or do you need to automate? Like, figuring out that process is going to be key to making sure that you can spend your time and your hours doing what you want to do, and that you can actually build in that rest time without freaking out.
Exactly.
And doing the right things. So these are kind of we're excited because honestly, we're in the thick of this with you. This is like we're in it. Like we are not experts in this. We are trying so hard to do better, to celebrate in the new year, to reflect more, to avoid burnout, because we've experienced it this year, and just really going into 2025 with a different mindset. And we hope that you do too.
If you like this episode, please be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes dropping every Monday. Plus, if you haven't already, please go ahead and leave us a review, and don't hesitate to share any new episode ideas. We absolutely love hearing from you and creating this content for you. See you next week.